Former President Donald Trump is now a convicted felon. He is the first ever former U.S. president to be convicted of a crime. This afternoon, a jury in New York City determined he conducted business fraud in a scheme to illegally influence the 2016 election through a hush money payment to an adult film star. Shortly after the verdict, the former president called the trial rigged and disgraceful. Fox's Connor Hansen reports from New York.
With today's verdict, former President Donald Trump was not only convicted on 34 felony counts, he also made history, becoming the first former U.S. president to be convicted of a crime.
This was a rigged, disgraceful trial.
Minutes after 12 jurors found Donald Trump guilty on all 34 counts, the former president delivering a message to the American people.
It's okay. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our Constitution.
Trump, who was indicted in connection with a hush money payment to an adult film star ahead of the 2016 presidential election, now faces a maximum sentence of 4 years in prison.
There were people who clearly were thrilled by the result, and there were people that will be very sad by it. I was saddened to watch it. I disagree with this verdict.
Jurors reaching their conclusion after asking the judge overseeing the trial to review testimony from David Pecker and Michael Cohen, as well as directions guiding deliberations.
While this defendant may be unlike any other in American history, we arrived at this trial and ultimately today at this verdict in the same manner as every other case that comes through the courtroom doors, by following the facts and the law and doing so without fear or favor.
Despite the verdict, neither the conviction nor any sentence prevents Trump from running for president.
The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people, and they know what happened here and everybody knows what happened here.
Trump's sentencing was set for July 11th. That's just 4 days before the start of the Republican National Convention. In New York, Connor Hansen, Fox 4 News.
Governor Greg Abbott is among the Trump supporters sharing reaction. He posted online, "This was a sham show trial. The kangaroo court will never stand on appeal. Americans deserve better than a sitting U.S. president weaponizing our justice system against a political opponent, all to win an election. We must fire Joe Biden in November." Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton posting on X, "From the beginning of this sham trial, I stood by President Trump, and my support for him is stronger than ever. As Attorney General of Texas, I will unleash every tool at my disposal to fight this blatant corruption and political persecution spewing from New York and the Biden administration."
This was a disgrace. This was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt. It's a rigged trial, a disgrace. They wouldn't give us a venue change. We were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area. This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. But the real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here. You have a Soros-backed DA. And the whole thing, we didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man, and it's okay. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our Constitution. Our whole country is being rigged right now. This was done by the Biden administration in order to wound or hurt an opponent, a political opponent. And I think it's just a disgrace. And we'll keep fighting. We'll fight till the end, and we'll win, because our country's gone to hell. We don't have the same country anymore. We have a divided mess. We're a nation in decline, serious decline. Millions and millions of people pouring into our country right now from prisons and from mental institutions, terrorists, and they're taking over our country. We have a country that's in big trouble.
Welcome, everybody, to the Wake Up Call channel. Death, chaos, civil war. Rigged. Whatever your narrative is, and whatever your political beliefs are, put them aside. If you're new to the channel, realize that I am not a conservative. I am not MAGA. I am not a Democrat, because I am not in the psychosis. What you're seeing right now is a psychological operation playing out in real life. You have the alt-right media and you have the communist Democrat media, both gaslighting their audiences into the destruction of, which is the goal of all of this, the Constitution. I'm going to show you in this video exactly what's going on with this charade that is Trump's conviction that will eventually be overturned. But they're building this up like a great script, because this is a script. This is a story. There is a new world government, a one world government that is in the shadows ready to emerge. But for that to emerge, they need to bring America to its knees. They need to destroy the American experiment. The Republicans and the Democrats are working together to do this. If you actually pay attention to all these stories that are out there, and you watch how the alt-right media and the liberal media operate, you'll start to realize that this is nothing more than a mass psychosis. Both sides, literally, both sides, if you watch this from a neutral perspective, think the same exact thing is happening to them. Both sides feel like the government is attacking them. And that's the point. That's the point. You see, when you're in the hive mind, the conservative hive mind or the liberal hive mind, you look at it from a one-track view. So in other words, all conservatives out there and Democrats out there are correct in the notion that the government is coming after them. The problem is that the Democrats feel like it's the conservative government that's coming after their rights, and the conservatives feel like it's the democratic communist government that's coming after theirs. But the reality is that they're both working together to do this to all of us. And the only way this works is if we come out of the left-right paradigm. But that's the thing they don't want you to think about. They want you to choose sides. And if you choose sides, you stay in the psychosis. That's why the alt-right media is so important to this. And the liberal media is so important to this. Anybody with an outside perspective, anybody who doesn't believe into this theory that your vote actually counts, anybody who's against both political parties will be silenced. You have to play the game. In order to play the game, for them to win at their game, you have to be in the game. And to be in the game, you have to choose one of the parties, which I'll get into in a moment. But we have to pay close attention to the perspectives of both sides, right? So I've talked about how the Democrats, people out there who vote Democrat, right? People out there consider themselves libertarians, even though they don't realize they're communists. They feel like the government, the conservatives in power, coming after them, which is why they've reversed Roe v. Wade. They've done all these things to make them feel that way. Conservatives feel like the government's come after them, that they've weaponized the government to go after them, specifically after their free speech, because conservatives are being silenced on the internet. But that's not so much the truth. The truth of the matter is that most conspiracy theorists who understand the left-right paradigm are the ones who are being silenced. That's why you see the alt-right media thriving, right? So you're looking at a psychosis going on. You see these people who are caught up in this, who are outside the courthouse taking one side versus the other, holding up signs, spending their days out there, actually caught up in this. They're being manipulated. Trump is an actor. Biden is an actor. Without these actors, this doesn't work. Without the emotional connection to these people, this doesn't work. To destroy the Constitution, they need both sides to participate in this, to think that the other side is the one destroying quote unquote democracy. But it's both of them working together to destroy the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, so that eventually, when they do this in the upcoming months, we'll blame one another for it. Democrats will blame conservatives, conservatives will blame Democrats, instead of the civilians uniting together and blaming a hijacked government of Freemasons, of secret society members who are all Luciferian at their core, who are doing this by design. This can be stopped if you come out of the psychosis. So, conveniently, while this goes on, while Trump, as you saw that clip, I chose to use that specific news clip in the beginning so you could see how they're starting to shift people, right? You saw Abbott, a World Economic Forum member, talk about kangaroo courts, how they're weaponizing the justice system, how this can't stand, right? This is to begin the separation of red and blue states. This has been going on for quite some time without people realizing it. That the government is prosecuting conservatives, right? This is going to lead to conservatives eventually leaving, the conservative states leaving the union, and conservatives themselves no longer participating in this and separating this into two separate dual forms of communism. That's what it's leading to. So I showed you that so you can see the mindset of the conservatives, DeSantis, etc. So trending as this happens with Trump, of course, is civil war, right? Civil war. And then you have to look at the players involved, because the alt-right media is very needed in this. There's a reason that the alt-right media does not get silenced. They play the victim, they pretend that they're censored, right? Russell Brand, Alex Jones, Tim Pool. Alex Jones goes to court, loses $1 billion lawsuit where he could easily have been in court, talking about proving facts involved in what happened in that event up at the Hook, right? Actually sticking to his guns and saying, hey, I'd like to see some evidence here. There was no evidence presented. Don't we always watch these true crime shows? We see evidence. There's no evidence. There's no trial. We're just supposed to believe whatever they show us on the news, right? Jones played his role in that. And Jones is playing his role along with all the other alt-right media, actors right now. Jones comes out and says, violence is not the answer to the current tyranny we face, but righteous, focused anger put into political action is the key to victory. And it's hard for a lot of people out there who are new to this to realize that Jones is COINTELPRO, that he's a government operative, because he does give out a lot of truth. But trust me, Jones wouldn't be alive. He wouldn't have been allowed in Bohemian Grove, okay, if he wasn't one of them. Everybody knows this. Everyone's seen the news clips of him openly confessing to working for Turner Broadcasting, for CNN. I mean, there's so much stuff out there on him, but let's focus in on what the alt-right media is saying, because again, when I talk about the psychosis of your vote counts, it's very important to think that your political, this is what empowers people, right? For these alt-right media to tell the conservatives out there, hey, we're going to win this at the ballot box. This is the buildup, like the middle of a movie. There's always the buildup to the ending of the film, right? Right now, we're in the buildup. We're in the center of the film. And the election, the rigged election, which is rigged. It's rigged on both sides. It's not real, right? They want you to believe it's rigged, but it's not real. Remember that. It's fake, okay? It's not rigged for one side. It's completely fake. It is not real, but they want you to believe that it's rigged against you, because ultimately, if it's rigged against you, you will feel that the system has betrayed you and you will be herded like cattle, which is what they're trying to do. So Jones is saying violence isn't the answer to go against this tyranny that we're facing, but political action. It's very important because it empowers you. It makes you feel like a victim. That's what they want when this happens in the election, this fake election that's coming up. They want you to feel like this isn't a hijacked government, that it's still your vote that counts. And then, of course, when they say, oh, my goodness, Joe Biden's polling at 10%, nobody's going to vote for Biden, they tell you that Biden won, that'll be the igniter to begin this separation where people don't believe anymore that their vote counts, which it doesn't count. But that's the problem. The problem isn't that it's rigged. It doesn't count. And we're allowing these people through psychological means to convince us that they're in power, right? Through fear tactics of making us pay taxes, telling us to lock down. This is all psychological. Yes, they have and control the military. Yes, they have and control the police force. But everything else is psychological. And that's what people need to break free from. But they don't want you to break free. They want you to participate in the game. So Jones goes on to say things like, he's retweeting things like, so Keith, decide what side you're on. Because they want you on a side. You have to be on a side. That's one of the key narratives that's out there. Take a side. Be a part of a side. Don't be neutral. If you're neutral, you're out. You're not involved. You're not allowed to be neutral. They don't want you to be neutral. I'm neutral because it's not real, right? You take yourself out of the psychosis and you realize that what's happening right now isn't real, right? So then they go on to say, who's voting for Trump? Jones is saying, I am. And that's the narrative that's out there from the conservative media, right? Tim Pool's another one. He tweets after this conviction, war, right? War. Truckers should boycott New York City. Right? Cernovich, another one. These guys all appear. That's what most people out there who are now consider themselves awake don't realize, that they're still in the trap. Okay? There was a truth movement. The truth movement was warning people about the left-right paradigm, how it's fake, how the elections aren't real. They replaced everyone out there, voices like the one you're hearing right now, with people like Cernovich, right? With people like Poole. They all of a sudden got propped up. Jack Posobiec. All these guys got propped up because their job is to keep you in the left-right. These guys showed up at places like Comet Penguin. Listen to Cernovich. Today was a terrorist bomb detonated on our legal system. A September 11th level attack. You want to talk about a September 11th level of gaslighting? That's what that is. And this is the point. They are keeping you in this psychosis, right? Jack Posobiec, the die is cast. Elon Musk. Indeed, great damage was done today to the public's faith in the American legal system, bringing down the justice system, which is already hijacked. We all get that, but you need to come out of it, because you thinking that voting and putting your emotions into Trump, etc., is part of what they want. They're trying to divide and separate us from each other, conservatives and Democrats. Never before have people had this type of standpoint when it comes to their political affiliation. People used to vote one way, it didn't affect their personal life. But because of the advancement in technology, they're using this to build the psychosis, to keep you in the hive mind. It's a simulated reality, if you don't understand what I'm saying. It's a simulation. They're acting this stuff out, and they're making this psychosis in your mind of you to believe what's happening out there is real. Trump is acting. If he doesn't get persecuted like this, he doesn't garner the support. Everybody out there who's conservative, which you could lump me into the basket of conservative, but I'm not a conservative as far as a Republican goes. I have a conservative viewpoint because I'm a Christian. But you can lump me in there because I could feel this. Most of you could feel all this stuff that's happening because the government is weaponizing themselves against us, right? We have a government that's gone rogue. So we've all felt the free speech censorship, right? All of us have. Most of you out there felt stuff with the magic potion. They forced you to either get it or lose your job, right? People out there ended up losing their job because they didn't want to poison their bodies. That's weaponized government, right? The other side feeling the same exact thing. How so? The other side's feeling it because the other side is saying to themselves, hey, now they're not, look at the stuff that they feel like they're oppressed because of the psychosis. We look at the other side and we go, these people nuts? Because they say, oh, gays don't have rights. Oh, they're taking away Roe v. Wade. But think about it from their perspective in the psychosis. They're getting gaslit the same way the conservatives are. So they feel like everybody out there is attacking them. And that's what's being done by design. So Tim Pool, Jack Posobiec, all these guys out there are telling you to do what? Donate. They're all I don't usually donate to political campaigns, but today is different. Today is a day like never before, a different time, right? I just maxed out to Donald Trump for the year, Jack Posobiec. You see all these goons. These guys are all here. And I don't, people will hear this and they'll be like, you're saying it because you're jealous. You're saying, look, I've been there before. I've had over 1 billion views on multiple channels. It's not a big deal, okay? What is a big deal is watching what they're doing, because this has to do with our rights. This has to do with manipulation. That's all that this is. So when you see these goons wearing Make America Great Again hats, right? They're hurting in their audience. They're getting everybody so angry. The answer isn't in voting. The answer is in not participating anymore. That's the answer. Not participating. The government is not working for you anymore, but they want you to think that they are in order to do what they're doing right now. Divide everyone amongst each other, make each side feel like the government's turned on them, and then start separating us into red and blue states, which I've covered over and over and over again. The narratives out there of a national divorce, that's what's coming next. So the other thing too is the above the law narrative, right? Each side has this idea that the other's above the law, right? Conservatives are saying, oh my gosh, Biden's above the law. Trump gets persecuted. And then the Democrats have the same mindset. Oh, Trump thinks that he's above the law. And then they'll go back to that mindset. It's like a seesaw. So I always say it's a seesaw of these narratives that go back and forth. One side feels like it's winning, then the other side feels like it's winning, and it goes back and forth, back and forth. And all of this buildup is for not the rigged election that's coming, the fake election. Now, I'm going to play for you some of these clips. You need to listen, as cringy as it is. These are all Tavistock Institute. These are all social engineering goons that are in the media who are doing this by design. Conservatives need to realize that they talk this specific way in liberal media, okay, because they're trained to. Just like the Democrats see how conservatives talk and it makes them sick, it makes both sides sick. This is done by design. Their level of manipulation that they have goes beyond our comprehension. They've been doing this since before Operation Paperclip, since before World War II, learning and studying the human mind. It's been something they've been doing for a long time. So anyone out there that thinks that they're awake and they know what's going on and, oh, we've woken up, we realize about Soros, these are all narratives that they're giving to you. They want you to feel like you're breaking free, but you're not breaking free. You're still in the trap if you're in the game. So listen to some of the narratives out there. Okay, it's really important how they're talking about a potential false flag, talking about another insurrection. Now, conservatives out there have this mindset. Think about, you got to stay in the mindset of what is each side looking at it as, right? Conservatives feel like all of the false flags, the insurrection, were all staged by the government, which they were. So they hear this stuff and they go, oh my gosh, they're going to do a fake event. And they are going to do a fake event. They're right from that perspective. The Democrats all look at everything in the news as real. So any type of MAGA event, they hate Trump so much because it's been done by design, they won't believe that the government actually staged it. They believe that people who are conservative are dangerous lunatics, gun owners. There's two dual sides of the stereotype they've created. The MAGA Trump white trash type side of things, right? They run around holding their guns, the Kid Rock perspective, right? We've seen how they've done that. It's just stereotyping. The other side, right? We look at, we can all look at the Democrats as, blue-haired, weird, strange, all wearing their Ukraine flags, right? It's two breeds of human that they're creating here. So listen to what they talk about on the news. It's important to note how they're talking about the dangers that are coming, and also how states like New York, how conservatives view the entire state as rigged. So conservatives are going to leave those states. They don't believe those states have, if you're a conservative, you can't live in a state like New York because New York could persecute you. New York could come after you, a little person, right? What's the other narrative we keep hearing? If they could do this to Trump, they can do this to you. They want you to remember that. The conservatives want you to remember that. Trump wants you to remember that because they want to move you around like a chess piece. And people go, well, what's the big deal if I go to a conservative state? It'll be better for me because they're going to hit you with other things. They're going to hit you with Russia, China, weaponized weather, attacks. But they're going to be able to herd people away because Democrats, they don't realize it yet, but they're communists. And if you're a communist, you're in on the global world order. They don't realize it yet. They don't realize any of it. They don't understand how private property and all that stuff works in a communist society. So they're already sitting ducks for them. But they'll do what they're told. The conservatives are the problem to the New World Order. So when you get conservatives all in these states together, sitting together, Christians, conservatives, all thinking they're free, they're going to be sitting ducks right where, they have a bullseye right on them for more attacks because they're not going to move forward with this dual government. It's just temporary to have dual, red states, blue states. It's temporary. It's weeding out the two sides so that one side is literally in certain states where they could bomb those states, they could hit them with tornadoes, they could do all these things the government has the capability of doing that you never hear the alt-right talk about because you'll never hear Tim Pool or any of these guys talk about weaponized weather or HARP or any of it, right? Because they got to keep you in the hive mind. But listen to the narratives with a major false flags coming. This is building up to false flags coming with the fake outcome of the election, how dangerous this is to the democracy, the same stuff you keep hearing, but pay attention to the stuff too with New York City and how they're telling you about New York City, how conservatives are going to flee. Conservatives don't feel like the justice system in democratic states is set up for them. It's set up against them. Listen.
Well, the front runner to be the next president of the United States, Donald Trump, is now a convicted felon. So one of the world's largest democracies is now in very dangerous and uncharted waters. The stability of the United States now rests partly on his reactions. We saw from the Capitol riots that how some of his supporters are prepared to go out there. This is a country with a lot of guns, ironically, and we saw him before talking about wanting to defend the Constitution of the United States. Ironically, a convicted felon cannot own a gun. So for all of his support from the National Rifle Association and the right of American politics, Donald Trump now can't own a gun. And so for me, the concern is the civil stability and his assault on so many of the institutions that Americans have held dear. The conspiracy theory here, the FBI's been part of the conspiracy theory, the media, the jury, this judge, it was a rigged case. The judge was conflicted. All of these institutions that have been immortalised by American movies and Hollywood, the FBI, the jury system, the judges, even the media, all the president's men, are now said by Donald Trump, the front runner to be president, to be part of this dangerous conspiracy to pervert the course of justice.
And many of these institutions, particularly the judiciary, is the cornerstone of a democracy. What is this all doing to democracy in America?
What it's doing, I think, is it's completely polarising it. He's basically saying, I couldn't get a fair trial because New York's not my territory. That his supporters are saying only 5 to 10% of people in this particular area would ever vote for him. And to suggest the judge is part of it, the Department of Justice. Again, these are all organisations that, whether it was Ronald Reagan or the George Bushes, conservative Republicans in the United States have always acknowledged the primacy of groups like the FBI. So my concern now is that if the supporters of Donald Trump, either with his nod, his quiet nod, or of their own, decide that this has to become something to be decided in the streets, that we could see a dangerous period in the United States.
Thank God for the state of New York, Donald Trump's home state, because there was no way for him to interfere with the process of justice. And in this rare instance, as somebody who's quite critical many times of the criminal justice system, the system actually worked the way it is supposed to work. And I agree with you. The one thing that would ruin this very rare moment when we can all say the criminal justice system can actually see past your power and see past your race and your wealth, the only thing that would ruin it is if anyone finds out who these jurors are, because God help them if that happens, because then Donald Trump will do his stuff.
Their safety.
Absolutely.
Right. But he and his supporters are trying to change us as a country by delegitimizing the legal system of the United States of America because it has found Donald Trump guilty, because the legal system indicted him, because he was put on trial, because he's now been found guilty. They have been using that as their excuse to try to not just upend the American legal system, but to get rid of it, to make Americans believe that it shouldn't be followed. And so the test here, yes, individual tests abound. This jury process was a test. The appellate process will be a test. The sentencing process is an adversarial process, and that itself will be a test. But the test for us as a country starts right now. Does the United States of America have a legal system that is binding on all citizens? Do we accept it? Do we protect the people who enact it? There are human beings at every step of this process who are flesh and blood and who have family members and who are susceptible to threat and injury. Do we protect them? Do we protect Fani Willis? Do we protect Tish James? Do we protect Alvin Bragg? Do we protect this judge and his family? Do we protect the jurors? Do we protect the witnesses? Do we protect Jack Smith? Do we protect Judge Cannon? Do we protect Judge Chutkan? Do we make sure that the people who are in charge of enacting this on our behalf as citizens and on Donald Trump's behalf as a citizen, do we make sure that they can do this work both without fear or favor and without threat? And we have failed on that so far. We need to step up our protection of the human beings in this process tonight in response to this verdict.
So remember, the goal here for the Democrats and the Republicans in power, not the civilians, the people pretending to be Democrat and Republican in power, pretending like they were elected. They were selected by the globalists and put in power. They're playing roles. They're wearing red ties and blue ties, but they're globalists. The goal here, the job for them, is to destroy the Constitution in America, because the Constitution keeps America out of a new world order. It gives us rights. It gives us right to bear arms, to free speech. They need to destroy the Constitution. So the two sides are working together to do that. They're creating false flags. They're creating psychological operations on the masses. So the masses are convinced that it's the other political party who's evil. It's the other political party. Instead of the civilians saying, this group of people in power, they're all doing this to us. Well, let's get them out. Let's throw them out. Let's use the Constitution and the Bill of Rights to throw them out. If the people realize that, then they stop it. What they want to do is they want both sides to destroy the Constitution and call for the destruction of the Constitution. Now, the conservatives with the patriot mindset will always think to themselves, well, we're going to keep the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, right? Both sides, as you hear in that clip from liberal media, are convinced that the other side isn't following the law, right? That's what's crazy about the psychosis if you pull out and you watch it, because we all have the same ideas here, right? We're not, some of you might vote and might be conservatives or whatever, Republicans, but you probably have conservative ideologies. You think all the stuff going on in the world is disgusting, right? That's all, I'm sure we're all in the same mindset with that. We all can see and feel how the government is coming after us, right? Because we're all getting censored. We're all dealing with that. It's incredible to watch the Democrat perspective, because most conservatives don't realize they literally feel the same exact way. They literally feel the same exact way, that their freedoms are a danger, right? Both sides have this same feeling, but each side doesn't realize that the other side's feeling that because they're dealing with a different set of rules and regulations against them, right? Democrats have all the free speech they want right now. They could say whatever they want. They'll trend, they'll go viral. Conservatives, not so much, right? Each side feels like the government is weaponizing the law against them. The Roe v. Wade is the perfect example versus free speech versus the Donald Trump psyop. And listening to those clips, you could hear, right, all around the earth right now, they're playing this stuff. The first clip I showed you was from Australia, where they're talking about MAGA supporters. MAGA supporters are gun owners. What about the insurrection? They're building this up, like I said earlier, like a movie script. There's going to be a major false flag. It's going to take a major false flag for this separation to occur. It's not just going to take the outcome of the election that nobody's going to believe. You have to understand that. Whoever is picked to be the president of the United States, which is at the end of this, each side has been conditioned to not accept the outcome of the election. That's what they've been conditioned to do. So when that occurs, that's going to be when the false flags come in. The buildup is now. There could be little whispers of things here and there, how Alvin Bragg and these other Freemasonic, Blue Lodge Masons are feeling threatened, just like we saw with the Supreme Court judges with Roe v. Wade feeling threatened. It's the same thing on both sides. The false flags will be coming. The election outcome, you can guarantee. I mean, people see the election thing, and they're not even realizing that when this occurs, that half of the entire country is not going to believe the outcome. That they've been building this up for years for you not to believe it based on your political affiliation, and then to separate. And it's going to take a big false flag, and they're preparing you for it. That's what those news clips were, preparing you for the false flag that is to come. And trust me, it's coming, because it's going to take one. It's going to take one for people to, psychologically be invested and then be told where to go or how to live, or some type of change needs to be made. It's going to take a September 11th like event for that to happen. And they will create and stage a major event. And it'll look nothing like the fake one on the 6th of January, which was laughable from the standpoint of the acting involved. People scaling buildings. I talked about it when it occurred. People were scaling buildings, thinking that civilians were scaling buildings. Not realizing it's government operatives. Conservatives like, it is government operatives. It's the government staging it, right? But they just hate Trump so much. That's why they're doing it. No, they're doing it together because they're going to separate you into separate states. This isn't a rigged election, folks. It's a fake one. And the war that's going on right now, it's so important to them that you take a side. That's why I showed you those clips earlier, right? Take a side. Alex Jones, the alt-right media, take a side. Your vote counts. You need to bring the change to the ballot box. The more you're empowered by the psychosis, the more they're going to be able to manipulate you when they create this false flag that's coming. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you as always, and your families.